Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pokemon Professors. Today, will be covering the deck profile of Metagross Duskmane. Now, I know this isn't the most popular of the variant of Duskmane. I know a lot of players are excited about Duskmane. They saw that Magnezone with the ability to, accelerate metal energy from your hand. That's cool. I think it's awesome. I have one of those on PTCGO, but I really like this one better. The problem is, though, that this one runs into that the other one doesn't run into, is that Metagross gets shut off by Glaceon. But I have included some cards in here to be able to counter that. So, without any further ado, let's go and get this one started. So, obviously, we're going to play a 4 Beldum. This Beldum is pretty much the only Beldum you can play, as far as I know, which, I mean, it's not terrible. If you get stuck in a pinch, you can discard a Metal Energy from this Pokemon to attack, which is good because you want your energy in the discard pile with this deck. Next, we play a 2 line of Metang, also with Core Beam. Once again, you want to discard Metal Energy when you use this attack. And then, finally, we run 4 Metagross. Now, the awesome thing about Metagross, and why I'm a fan of him over Magnezone, is because if you find yourself in a pinch, you can come up with Metagross. For 1 energy, you can Algorithm GX. Now, the problem is Algorithm GX doesn't always stick, but you get to find 5 cards, any 5 cards in your deck, and put them into your hand. That's awesome. Also, his ability is what really makes this deck run. Geotech System lets you bring either Psychic or Metal Energy from your discard pile and put it onto your active Pokemon. With 2 of these guys and a Mount Coronet on the field, you can easily get 3 to your Duskmane Necrozma and every single turn hit with your Meteor Tempest for 220 damage. Speaking of Duskmane Necrozma, we play 3 Duskmanes. I'll put the shiny rainbow one up there for you. We play 3 of these guys. This is the main attacker. He's really the star of the show. His GX move is great because this deck is kind of slow in setting up, so you fall behind in prizes quickly. But with Sun's Eclipse GX, you can hop yourself right back into this game using its GX move for 250 damage. The only problem is with this one is you have to be behind in prizes. But as I said before, there is no problem with that because of how slow this deck is to be built up. Also, you have Claw Slash for 3 energy. It does a vanilla 60 damage. And you have Meteor Tempest for 3 metal energy and a colorless. You have to discard 3 energy from this Pokemon to do 220 damage. That is nutso. We do play Fighting Fury Belt in this deck too to kind of beef up this Duskmane Necrozma, so he's hitting for 230, which is what most GX Pokemon have in this set. We also have some proxies in this deck, so if you notice their coloring's a little weird or they're not, shiny or whatever, that's because unfortunately, I really don't have these cards outside of decks that I'm using in competitive play currently. So if you guys would just bear that with me, that would be awesome. We do play 3 Tapu Leles just because the supporter in this deck, they're so important, and you have to have them. You got to get bridged out as soon as you possibly can with this deck to get your Beldums out and your Draw Engine. Which, speaking of Draw Engine, we have Zorua and Zoroark. Zoroark is perfect in this deck as your draw engine because of its trade ability. Discard metal energy out of your hand to your discard pile, and that just feeds right into Metagross Geotech System and Mount Coronet. It is awesome to have. It's just the perfect Pokemon to put in here. I tried it with Octillery. My hand was too clunky at that point, and I wasn't able to really feed my Duskmane Necrozma as much as I like to. So that is our Pokemon lineup. Moving on to our supporters. Next, we play 3 Professor Sycamore, 1 Bridget, 2 Guzma, 2 N, and 2 Cynthia. Now, it's important for us to have Professor Sycamore in this deck. This deck is not really scared of discarding cards from its hand. They all flow together, obviously, but the thing is that they want to get their metal energies in there. Professor Sycamore is just so good, being able to discard your hand, draw a fresh 7. We only play one copy of Bridget, even though she is really, really popular and very much needed. But with Zoroark, if you can get him out sooner rather than later, you can eventually build up your bench to where you don't really need Bridget. So she is just a one-of in here. Very rarely do I ever find her prized. 2 Guzma, just because we're hitting for big numbers. We want to bring up the opponent's Pokemon and knock them out. 2 Ns, just because N is so good that you can't really just pass on, not having an N. Cynthia, in my opinion, is not a good replacement, just because N really messes with your opponent's hand. And then you have Cynthia. Everyone's going nuts for Cynthia. I'm a fan of the Cynthia card. Shuffle 6 is just awesome, being able to draw fresh cards and moving on with that, hopefully getting yourself out of some tight situations. So that's the supporter line. Next we have our items. We play 4 Rare Candy, 4 Ultra Ball, pretty much your staples in any Stage 2 deck. 3 Float Stones, because this is a very heavy deck. When it comes to retreat, your Necrozma is 3 colorless energies to retreat, and so is your Metagross, so it's nuts. We have 2 Field Blowers, 2 Rescue Stretcher, 1 Super Rod, 3 Choice Bands, and that's all that we have for our item cards. Now, you can change your Choice Bands for Fighting Fury Belts. I thought I did play Fighting Fury Belts in this deck list, but that's my other one. So the one I'm showcasing has these Choice Bands. Now, Choice Band is important because if you go against decks like Decidueye, you're not hitting for weakness, so you're wanting to hit that 250 mark. Choice Band gets you there. Otherwise, you could take these 3 Choice Bands and make them into Fighting Fury Belts. And if you do that, then your Duskmane Necrozma is up to 230, and he's hitting for 230 as well with his Meteor Tempest. So that's really helpful as well. I like the Fighting Fury Belt maybe actually a little bit better than the deck list I am actually currently showing off. But that is totally fine either way. 4 Rare Candy, just because absolutely in a Stage 2 deck, the faster you can get to your Metagross, the better. 4 Ultra Ball is just a staple. I think it kind of speaks for itself. Go discard 2 cards, find a Pokemon card, put it into your hand. 2 Rescue Stretcher, that's very helpful when, your Zoroark gets knocked out or your Duskmane gets knocked out. Bring them back and punish your opponent. Super Rod, if your energy count gets too low, it's very important to try to get your energies back in there. Maybe throw like a Pokemon back in that you're missing out on, like maybe you're a Matang or something that you need just to shuffle it back in. Field Blowers, we play 2 Field Blowers just to try to, if we go up against that Garbodor matchup, which I foresee being a very popular card in the Ultra Prism format. I see it getting a bump in popularity just because all of these Pokemon depend on abilities. Glaceon, Zoroark, you have Octillery, and all your draw engines, all of those cards really, really depend on their abilities, and so Garbodor is going to feel right at home with just even more cards feeding into the need for abilities. And then, like I said, the 3 Float Stones, just because this is a heavy deck. Next, we will be moving on to the Mount Coronet Stadium. Now, this is a card that a lot of people were really excited about seeing. It's a 4 of and most Magnezone decks that I know of. It's such a good card for any deck like this. You can play it in the regular Solgaleo deck or whatever you will. It lets you pull 2 cards from your discard pile, 2 metal energy, from your discard pile, put them in your hand. Like I said, with our Duskmane, Necrozma, if you're up there, you're attacking, you have 2 Metagross GX, every single turn, you're able to just smack your opponent for 220 damage, which makes this deck flow so much nicer than the Magnezone variant. But the Magnezone variant also is very good. Like I said, I play that one. Moving on to our energy count. We play 3, 6, 9 metal energy. That is the perfect number in my opinion. If you get 10, there's really not much of a difference. 8, is just cutting it too short. So I found the sweet number at being 9. I always have energy in my hand when I need it. I'm always able to get rid of it and bring it back up for Dusk main Necrozma to be able to feast on his opponent. He's very energy hungry, and he's just a great card to have in this format. So look out for our testing of this deck on the channel. We will be probably facing it up against Glaceon, just so you guys can see how that matchup goes for this deck. So thank you for watching. Please comment, subscribe, and like the video. Thanks, guys. Peace.